Hi, I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together we're Lippy and Grumpy Do Podcasting.
In this episode, Davros solves the gnome shortage, a sandwich snatching seagull, free parking, and a WD40 base top tip.
Now, Lippy.
Yes.
We have had a missive from Davros, as usual.
Yes.
Back on emails, which is good. I'd like to see that, and it's getting longer by the week. He addresses the gnome shortage that we discussed last week. And he says Davros sees a way out of this. He thinks that the youngsters call it pivoting. In fact, lots of people call it pivoting. I've read a number of business books where they talk about pivoting the business from one thing to another. So if something's not working, then you move on to something a bit different. So, yes, a very, very common term outside of those that destroy galaxies. So those furloughed from the hospitality sector can redeploy as gnomes for hire. No retraining necessary. Socially distanced and working in the open air. Perfect. Just need a red hat, false beard and a fishing rod. I think you may be stereotyping gnomes there, Davros.
Yeah, a little bit. They don't all have fishing rods.
They don't know, precisely. Not all of them do. Some of them have wheelbarrows. Others hold pot plants, that sort of thing. So anyway, I get what you're going on about. He finishes with, there needs to be an app to connect the gnome deprived with their dream dwarfish fishing person. Not quite sure what that would entail.
It sounds like eBay for gnomes.
Well, possibly. But that would do it. So we can certainly put you in touch with gardens if you wish to work as a gnome, basically. He then goes on to say, we'll cover Davros in one go, I think. The bottom brain, which we discussed last podcast, I think, but I can't quite remember where. There was a theory doing the rounds that dinosaurs such as the Brontosaurus may have had a second brain or a nerve cluster that dealt with the motor functions for its hind quarters. And I have heard this before. My cousin was so into dinosaurs. I'm surprised he didn't become a dinosaur specialist. A desperate China paleontologist, that was it. Because he knew everything about them, and he'd bang on about double-brained dinosaurs at some length.
I see. I thought dinosaurs weren't... Oh, no, it was the like, T-Rexes didn't have a very big brain.
Whether it wasn't a big brain compared to the rest of their body...
No, I think it was definitely that they were not very intelligent animals.
Well, they just needed to eat, roar and scare people, really.
Yeah.
So possibly didn't need a massive brain.
No.
Davros has come up with a 1980s joke, which I'm not going to tell because only you and I will... Not you, Lippy. Only Davros and I will understand it.
I'm still young.
Still far too young. And also he's got a team for his Rounders event.
Is it not appropriate to read out?
I can't repeat it. This is a family show. There is no swearing.
You'll have to send that one through to me.
Yes, it was very funny. So well done. If we were a little more adult, then we would have covered it. But, thank you. Please do keep them coming in. Now, you wanted to say something about football, which is something that neither you and I really know anything about.
I don't know anything about football, like, at all. Chris he supports Tottenham. So we watch the Tottenham games when they're on telly, or the more preferable thing that happens is he goes to his parents' house to watch the football, so that I don't have to. But I heard on the radio the other day, and I think I was in a bad mood anyway, and it just really irritated me. And I know we don't talk about and the pandemic much or at all, really, because it's not. So I was listening to the radio, and it was the news on. Some nice stuff had happened on the news, probably. I can't remember the rest of the article. But then it said, Champions League final is 2 English teams. And I was like, oh, that's quite impressive. Because Champions League is like European, UEFA, whatever. So we've done quite well to get 2 teams in the final.
I assume... No. No, it's the I'm looking at an article here. It's the All-English Champions League final. And it's due to be played on May the 29th, but Wembley is booked. I don't know.
So before it's before Wembley's been booked. It was going to be happening in Turkey anyway.
Oh, okay.
So it planned, so all the games are planned out, and the final was going to be on the 29th in Turkey, which, as we know, is a red list country currently.
Yes.
But why are they now, that it's 2 English teams, not moving it back and having it in England?
Well, I say Wembley's booked, presuming they've got some sort of boot fair there. But I read it shortly after we had this conversation last week. I found a tweet that said there are some 30,000 daily new COVID cases in Turkey. Turkey is in lockdown and has a nationwide curfew. Our government's advice is against all but essential travel. But let's fly 4,000 Chelsea fans and 4,000 Manchester City fans to Turkey for a game of football.
Well, they've been told... The fans have been told not to go, but they're not like not to go. Nothing's going to happen if you do go. You've just got to do the isolation in the hotel when you come back.
Well, it's hardly essential travel, is it?
It's ridiculous. I was shocked that they didn't. Why don't they just move it back to England? It's 2 English teams. They don't have to have it at Wembley. They can have it anywhere.
I think they have.
Have they now? Well, that's good news, because it really bugged me. And I was thinking, I'm sat here wishing that I was gone on a holiday in Turkey.
Yes, I think they have. It's in the Times, so I've only seen the first bit because it's behind a paywall. But they are suggesting it's not going to happen in Turkey.
Well, I think if it did happen in Turkey, there would have been an absolute uproar, because that would have just been because of some upper power people making the decision out of stupidity rather than common sense. In the UK, some things are starting to get better with events. So it actually means some people can go.
Yes, it probably does, but I think it's fairly limited because we're still in obviously the next unlockdown, but not the final one. So this is yesterday. And it says Wembley primed to replace Istanbul for all English Champions League final.
That makes sense then.
It does, doesn't it? It doesn't say what they've done with the boot fair at Wembley, though. Maybe they've pushed that on.
I wonder what was it was a boot fair at Wembley.
I know, I'm guessing.
Like, what was happening at Wembley on the 29th of May in the middle of a pandemic, which meant they couldn't book there?
Well, places will be opening from the 17th, so you will be able to have people in there, but the capacity is limited.
But that's what I mean. Nothing that big could have been going on.
But it does seem like a bonkers idea.
Yeah, it did.
And I think you're right. The Champions League is not just England. It just happens to be 2 English
Yes.
teams.
No, it's definitely not just England. It's a European championship. I do know as a fact.
Well, knowing nothing about football, I couldn't.
I think it's FIFA
comment.
that are in charge.
They mentioned UEFA.
UEFA's in charge.
I don't know what the difference is.
European Football Association.
And what's FIFA?
Federation.
Is this one of these Federation International Football Associations?
Yeah, that's
a French thing, a bit like the motorsport one, which I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So your blood pressure can go back down again now.
Yeah, good. Okay, I'm really pleased about that, because I even text Chris straight away being like, I don't know if you've heard this, but it's absolutely stupid. Stupid.
Not sure he has the power to change it, though.
He didn't, but I'm one of those people that if something's annoyed me, I need to rant about it.
Yes, I
have to
was
get
at
it
the end
off
of
my
one of your
chest.
rants yesterday.
I was very angry yesterday.
Yeah, I was in the middle of a nap.
Oh. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning.
So, I've been swimming at 6:30.
It was when are you working? Work nap.
Yes, well, you've got to, if somebody's chopping down a tree, they take time to sharpen their axe. I take time to resharpen my brain by having a nap.
Fair. All right, next time I'm late to a meeting, I'll use that excuse.
Absolutely, yeah, I was sharpening my axe. Anyway, my trawl of the papers over the last week, I found an interesting video of a seagull.
Oh, yes. I think I've seen this.
Okay, so this is the co-op in Aberdeen, and the locals have named him Gus for some reason. But he's worked out that if he walks up to the doors in a certain place, the doors open because they've got an automatic sensor. And he just has enough time to run in, grab a sandwich from the chilled cabinet opposite the door, and then run out again before the doors close. And presumably, though, he doesn't realise there's a meal deal because he's only taking the sandwich, whereas if he was to get a snack and a drink, he would probably save a bit of money. But,
I don't think he's paying for it in the first place, is he?
That's a very good point. Very, very good point. But he's clearly done this a lot. We tend to think of birds as being a bit dim, but actually this one has sussed that one out very, very well.
I think seagulls are quite intelligent. Like, they do aim where they poop as well. I'm sure
Yes,
they know
yeah.
where they're pooping, and they know if it's going to hit someone, and they do it on purpose.
Brighton seafront in the summer with an ice cream is just pure target
Terrifying.
practice, really. Yeah, well, they swoop and they're gone. We were at Portland Bill over last year in the summer, and it was a very windy, blustery day. It wasn't sunny and calm as we had hoped. Lots of seagulls there, and of course a lot of people eating outside because of COVID, and chips is a common fare there, and the seagulls are everywhere and bombing you, and so you almost have to eat it under your anorak.
Yeah, so they can't see the chips.
So maybe there's a product there, is something that goes over people, so you can still see out but still consume your food without being attacked by seagulls.
I'm sure there must be something like that for people that go hunting.
Yeah, be all camouflage though. You'd look a bit silly on the top of Portland Bill with a camouflage sheet over you. And you wouldn't have a clear bit at the front, because then whoever you were hunting would be able to see you.
True. Like you said, whoever is, if they hunt people.
Well, they might do. There might be paparazzi.
Oh yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
I'll apologise for that, because paparazzi do hunt celebrities that are people.
They do, don't they? Talking of paparazzi, I was rather saddened to see they've been hunting Damian Lewis, who lost his wife a couple of weeks ago to cancer. And I thought, and it's just a bit, no, don't do it. Leave the poor man alone. Let him walk his dog in a bit of peace. You know, he's had a rough old time.
And you know exactly what the article will be. It'll be like, first picture of him since his wife passed, looking sad. Like,
that was exactly it. It was
no one
exactly
needs to see that.
No, with his friend, who turned out to be female, so presumably there'll be a whole load of speculation about that as well. But no, I
We
did
would all
feel
be
for him.
better off if newspapers didn't exist, magazines didn't exist.
Well, don't buy them. That's the thing.
I
Don't buy them,
either.
and don't watch the programmes. Mind you, here we are including that piece in our podcast, so that makes us just as bad. So the other thing that caught my eye over the last week was a enterprising young student in America who had to pay $250 a year for a parking permit at his college.
Seems a
But
lot.
electric vehicles were free. So what he got presumably from a well-known online store, a little plastic socket that you use to keep the charging lead in when you're at home for hanging it in. And he glued it onto the side of his Jeep.
To make it look like it was electric.
And there's a picture. So he rocks up into the electric parking bay, puts the lead into this dead socket, and saves himself $250 a year.
Impressive.
How long that's going to go on for now, it's gone around the internet, is another matter. But I
feel like that
very
now that it's out
enterprising.
there, it's going to end quite quickly. But that is a
I
very
would have
good
thought so.
saving hack.
It is a very good saving, but a little unfair on people who do have electric vehicles and need to charge them.
True.
the
Depends how
only
many
thing I would say.
electrical charging ports they have.
Yes, but I'd say don't do that at home.
No.
And Zoom is the gift that keeps on giving. And this week's monumental stupidity is a Ohio State Senator called Andrew Brenner, who decided to make a video call or Zoom call while he was driving. But obviously thought this through, so he had a background of his house behind him. Quite clever, so you could set the background. What he forgot was that he was wearing a seatbelt.
God, why would you even think to do a Zoom call whilst you were driving?
Yeah, I mean, a telephone call is distracting enough.
Let alone a Zoom call.
Yeah.
They must have noticed he wasn't really looking at the camera either.
You would have thought so, wouldn't you? Looking all over the place.
Yeah.
And not to mention the noise as well, unless you're constantly muting the microphone. But you've got to take your hands off the wheel to do that. I don't believe there's a car in the world that has Zoom controls on the steering wheel.
Not yet, no.
No, well, hopefully
Tesla,
not
maybe.
ever. Well, should never be.
Well, it'll be driving itself by the time you can do a Zoom call.
Yeah, well, that's some debate, isn't it? There was a horrendous accident a couple of weeks ago, and somebody lost their lives.
Oh,
Two
there's
people lost their lives.
drivingless car.
Well, they thought it was a driverless car, which is not. It's a driver assist car.
Those really confuse me, driver assist cars.
Yes, I don't... We've had one once when you were skiing at a Mitsubishi. That
And it
did
just drives straight.
No, I mean, this is quite a long while ago, so it would warn you if you started to cross lanes without indicating. And I can't remember how it did it. A friend of mine had I think it was a Citroen, and that would pull the seatbelt if you tried to do that.
Oh, so it's like my car that when I reverse it beeps when I'm getting too close.
Sort of, yeah.
I've worked out I can get pretty much to a flat line beep before I hit anything.
Yeah, is it affected by dirt on the...
No.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
So our recommendation is not to take part in a Zoom call when driving.
Definitely not.
And certainly don't take your seatbelt off so that you look like you're in...
So you don't look like you're driving.
Yeah, that'd be bonkers. Anyway, last weekend we had the Jigsaw Run at Dunsfold Aerodrome, which had been moved twice since November last year. And this year was a bit of a bonus, or last year was a bit of a bonus, as we were expecting there to be houses being built, which doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. So, and apparently the whole site is up for sale, obviously with planning permission. But there are rumours that it might be kept as a film set, which would be quite nice. So,
They do use that a lot as a film set, don't they? More than you realise.
Yeah, the list, actually, if you look on their slightly archaic website, the list of films and programmes is quite long.
It was one of the Mission Impossibles was there, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah.
He runs and jumps on the side of the plane.
I believe some of Casino Royale was filmed there as well, some of the scenes. Turned it into Miami Airport. And of course, with CGI, you can add all sorts of things in. But one of the big advantages of that area is there's nothing on the skyline.
No.
The dates it. It's all very clear. But apparently, Amazon are filming something, and I can't remember the name, the guy said, in one of the jets that's there. So they've got a number of jets that don't go anywhere. Yeah, they've free-sold the engines. Just chilling. Two of the last 747s were flown in there. I think we covered it on this at the end of last year. And skid marks are still on the runway, interestingly.
No, from the landing.
Yeah, so one of my Lion colleagues is into aircraft in a big way, and he was pointing them out. And we also found, which I hadn't seen before, despite having a small workshop on there many years ago, there's a massive piece of thick metal just to the side of the runway on the concrete there. And that's where they used to test the Harrier jump jets, because if you did it on the tarmac would melt.
Oh, God.
Due to the heat. So they had to do it on
a big bit of metal.
They take off from an aircraft carrier, which is made of metal, not tarmac.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So that was quite good to stand on that and pontificate about.
Pretend to be a rocket.
Yeah. Anyway, the day went quite well. They had 2 races instead of 1, 500 runners across the 2, which is good. Yeah, it's a good raises good money for the school, which specialises in children and young adults with autism. Very well regarded. It's been there quite a long while. Unfortunately, the first group of runners that set off seemed to be ignoring every sort of advice being given by the organisers, who pleaded with them not to bunch up. About 20 of them decided to leave at the same time to begin with, and decided not to run down the runway as directed, but round the perimeter track. So, and we were marshalling at that point, and they ran straight past us, and I thought, oh, that's a bit odd. So I, for some reason, had been given a radio, so got on the radio to race control. They're running round the perimeter. Oh, no, they shouldn't be doing that. So we started shouting at people to go down the runway. Would they listen?
No.
Not a chance. Though it took an awful lot of screaming and waving and basically walking in front of people to get them to start going down the runway. It's crazy. And that event's been running for 10 years.
Yeah, we've even run it.
We have run it. And we won't talk about the ending.
I still think your race was more dramatic than that.
It was a little bit, yes. Yes, it was a little bit. Well, we'll talk about that one day. So I would imagine there was some quite angry, very keen runners at the end of it. But as the race director said, it's their problem. We sent them out.
They didn't listen.
We've spoken to them, and obviously one decided they were going to go that way, and they all followed. A little bit like sheep, really. But we had all sorts of weather. We had rain, we had sunshine. I came back with a burnt forehead.
Oh, damn.
Yes, very interesting morning.
Yeah, it has been a bit of everything,
indeed.
the weather recently, hasn't it? It's not consistent. It's not... Also, this time last year, I was sat in the garden most days.
Yes.
It was
It
boiling.
was glorious from the day lockdown was announced.
Yeah.
Really through to the end of August.
From the day I lost my job
Yes.
was beautiful sunshine.
Yes, and it's the complete opposite now.
Yeah.
Yes, our beech hedge at the front has had quite a shock because the leaves started to come out, and then it's just stopped.
Oh.
It's restarted again now. It's got a bit warmer, but there's big holes in it, which is a bit odd. But anyway, enough of that. And the Screaming Tomato got in touch, following on from us talking about people arguing and not seeing other people's perspective. And he reminded me of an effect called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is a type of cognitive bias in which people believe they are smarter and more capable than they really are. And it's quite easy to be quite offended by this, to be honest. So I'm treading very carefully. And the best explanation I found was this. The phenomenon is something you have likely experienced in real life, perhaps around a dinner table at a holiday family gathering. Why they talk about family, I don't know, but I suppose you get all sorts, really. Throughout the course of the meal, a member of your extended family, oh, now we've got the in-laws in,
Yeah.
begins spouting off at a topic at length, boldly proclaiming that he is correct, or she is correct, and that everybody else's opinion is stupid, uninformed, and just plain wrong. It may be plainly evident to everyone in the room that this person has no idea what he or she is talking about, yet he or she prattles on, blithely oblivious to their own ignorance. Interesting. We've all come across people like that, and I just hope I'm not one of them.
I mean, I feel like I am sometimes. But I'm not, because I actually do know what I'm talking about, so it's not...
Yes, I think we've all got the potential to do that. And the problem is if you're very passionate about a subject...
Gets worse.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's an interesting thing, but I wouldn't necessarily take it at face value and assume that everybody's like that. I discovered some years ago that everybody's perception on life is different, and after doing that, things became a lot easier, to be honest. Just live and let live.
I would agree. And also, I feel like it winds people up more if you just agree with them.
It can do, or just say nothing.
Yeah, that. Just say, oh, that's a good opinion for you to have. And then just don't say anything else after that.
A friend of mine used to, in meetings, he would diffuse situations by going, you've got a very good point. I'll need to think about that. And then, obviously...
Never think about it ever again.
And talking about talking with people, there's a very good book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
I've half read it.
You've half read it. Well, I definitely read the other half. Chris Voss was he was a policeman to begin with, American policeman, and eventually joined the FBI in the hostage negotiation team. And his story about how he fought his way in there is quite interesting because he was completely underqualified for it. And he takes you through a journey, and he illustrates it with real life examples as well on how to negotiate with people. And it is quite an eye-opener because the way that we tend to do it is probably not the most effective. And you have to be a little bit selfless, to be honest, to do it. But remembering what you want at the end, what the goal is, rather than how you position yourself throughout the negotiation. So if you get the opportunity to read it, it's a very good book.
It's a very good book.
Quite a quick read unless you're Lippy, when you have to read it over several years.
It's a good book for if you want something or trying to like get a pay rise, or you're trying to get a new job and you're like negotiating packages and what you get with the new job. I feel like if you're just a normal person happy with where you are in life, then it's probably not a book for you.
Although it has to be said, it is an interesting read. And actually,
his story is very interesting.
Are brilliant, and how they brought hostage negotiations to an end. Some of them successfully. There is one very funny story in the middle about somebody in Central America who was kidnapped, and
hilarious.
But one of the key things he says is to keep asking questions. Say, how can I do this if this? So how can I pay that money when I don't have How can I pay your ransom if I don't have that money? And eventually, they just wound them down, and the number of guards reduced dramatically until there was just one left, and the hostage escaped.
Yeah.
Just appeared at home. But they just wore them down. And the other problem is that where they were keeping him, there was nowhere near a phone, so the communicator had to walk into the village to use the phone, take the message, go back again to get the answer, then come back again. So it's just a nightmare setup.
Chaos.
Obviously pre-burner phones.
Well, I've watched a very good episode of Grey's Anatomy, actually, where there's a gunman in the hospital, and what you should do is just start telling them personal things about you, because it'll make them feel bad. If they feel like they know who you are, they're less likely to keep bouncing back because they feel bad about what they're doing if they actually know who you are. So if you get kidnapped, just start telling them stuff about yourself.
Yes.
And meaningful things like you've got a kid.
I have a feeling if you were kidnapped, you would become unkidnapped quite quickly.
I feel like that's probably what would happen. After about 10 minutes, they'll be like, "Oh, let's just put her back."
10 minutes, crikey.
Well, I think it'd take 10 minutes for the situation to have settled, and then for me to start being annoying.
So, what news from the house move?
People are stupid. Well, they're not. Well, they kind of are. It's just,
they're annoying.
It's been a very frustrating 2 weeks. So we're basically there with our new mortgage and the actual sale itself, to the point where I was talking to this solicitor the other day, and she said, yeah, we think we're like 2-3 weeks away from exchange. She said, with the possibility of completing on the same day.
Oh, okay.
So we're very close, and before the 30th of June, which is the ideal. But we, at the start of the process, told the solicitors we need them to do our remortgage as well. So and we got told by 2 separate people, yeah, that's fine, they'll just do it along the same side. Like, we'll do it for you as well, that's fine, it'll just run along at the same time. And then that was the last we heard of it until our case got allocated to a person to go through the last stages. And she sent a message with a few questions. So I thought I'll ring her because it's easier to chat about them rather than try and type them back. And then at the end, she was like, oh, actually, whilst I've got you on the phone, who's doing your remortgage? And I was like, you're doing my remortgage? And she was like, oh, it's a different part of the company. And we were like, okay, that's fine. She was like, I'll get the inquiry over and someone will contact you as soon as possible. 2 weeks later, and I don't know how many emails and messages, it got to the point where we spoke to the estate agent who's friends with the owner of the company, and he had to get involved in order for them to just send us our initial information.
Good grief.
But they were doing so well, and this girl that's doing our other side is so good and so lovely and like really proactive and like constantly giving us updates. They've just completely let themselves down with this other part of the company, and it's absolutely awful. So that started Monday officially, which is yesterday, and since then it's just question after question of stupid things that they should know, or they shouldn't even ask us. They should be asking our case handler for the other half of it, because she's the one they should be liaising with on it, not us.
Sounds like somebody lost a file.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's happened. Or they kind of told a slight fib about how the companies were connected.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they have different names, for one.
Okay.
And for two, we had to give them her information, and we were like, well, surely you should just have that on the system if you look up our names, because we thought we went with you thinking you were linked, either the same company or side-by-side companies. So
oh, well, that's quite annoying.
It's moving again. We were both very frustrated yesterday with that, just because we've been so quick at everything else, and now it's to do with us that's holding it up, and it's getting really annoying. We're like,
yes,
it's not our fault, but it's our fault that it's slowed down again.
Well, it's our side. It's not our fault.
Exactly.
Oh, well, hopefully that will resolve itself this week.
Yeah, because the initial email was, it'll take 4 to 6 weeks, to which our response was, no, it'll be less than 4 weeks because you're the one that's been delaying us. It's not our fault that you took 2 weeks to come back to us after 3 months of us thinking that it was going ahead.
Yeah, that is crazy. Exchanging and completing on the same day is a little bit of a worry. I suppose if you haven't got to move on that day as well.
The aim is not to move on the completion day, I think. I think the aim would be to go and have a walk around the house and see what's been left, if anything has been left, and maybe do a clean, see what condition they leave it in kind of thing, is what we would like to do on the completion day rather than actually move, because I feel like that would just be way too stressful trying to do exchange, completion all in the same day.
Yes, absolutely. I did that on a flat I had, but I moved into rented, so it wasn't. So there was a bit of an overlap, so there wasn't really a problem with it.
But yeah, she was saying if we have enough time before the exchange date, they might as well make it the completion date, because our sellers aren't having to move into a house, so it's not that we can exchange and then we just need to wait for them to exchange so that we can all have completion dates. It's that we're exchanging for them to then move into their parents' house, so it's not...
Yeah, as long as they got their stuff out of the house, that's...
Which I drove past the other day and there were boxes in the window.
Yes, you said, yes. So unfortunately, when we moved into this house, having had a bit of a nightmare trying to pack up stuff from the old house, because there isn't a road that was by it, you had to walk it across
the
common
field
land to get to the track, basically. And being an old cottage, you had to take stuff out the window, so all the window frame had to come out. So we arrived at this place, it was in November at 4 o'clock. It was a horribly wet, cold day, and the bloke was still packing up. And eventually we got him out and gave us a set of keys which didn't fit the house. So, we had to go and change the locks the following day. And then we opened cupboards and it's full of his stuff. Went up in the loft, there's a whole load of stuff up there.
That's so annoying. I really hope that doesn't happen to us.
Well, if it does, you take it out and you put it on the driveway. And I phoned him and said, you still your stuff here? And he went, oh, yeah, I'll come and pick that up next weekend. I said, no. I said, I'm going to put it in the car now and I'll drive it around and dump it off at your house. I'm not having it. It's not on. It's got a cupboard full of medicines. I don't want that. Either you take it tomorrow or it goes in the bin. Yeah,
that will be my response is either you come and get it now or I'm throwing it out.
Yeah, quite. Anyway, hopefully it won't come to that.
Yeah.
So, is there a Lippy top tip?
Let me think.
If not, I've got a grumpy top tip.
Oh, yes! Let's do a grumpy top tip.
Let's do a grumpy top tip. So, I cut myself shaving this morning, which I don't do very often.
I just thought you had a big spot, to be fair. I just didn't mention it.
No, it is. It's rather grown. And it bled profusely as well, as they tend to do. Now, many years ago, when I was at the car show and preparing to commentate for the day, I'd stayed in the camper van overnight on the showground and decided to have a shave in the morning and cut myself, and it would not stop bleeding. And one of my fellow lions came over. He said, stick a bit of WD-40 on it. I went, what? Yeah, WD-40. So I went and saw the sound man. I said, you got any WD-40? He went, yeah. So I sprayed a bit on a tissue, stuck it on there, took it away, stopped bleeding instantly.
That's weird.
It is a little weird, but when you consider the major ingredients in WD-40 is baby oil and Vaseline, it all makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking that stuff smells potent. I wouldn't want to put it on my face.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. I mean, the lion said it was going to sting a bit, which it didn't. So top tip: if you cut yourself shaving, little dabble of WD-40. Mind you, maybe that's why it looks like a major spot.
Yeah, I did. I was just being polite, and I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, it is quite big. I think it was quite a big slice, actually.
Yeah, it looks kind of painful.
So, can I go into my fun fact now?
Oh yeah, go on there. You're doubling up this weekend.
Yeah,
this weekend.
Weekend.
I don't know what day it is.
Yeah, so this is another fact that has been unsubstantiated. A little bit like last week's one where we talked about the ceremony of quit rents, but I have done a little bit of research into it, and it is in fact true. So this is where a blunt knife and a sharp knife, 6 horseshoes and 61 nails pass hands.
So that's exactly what they get?
That's exactly what they get. And the City of London pay that to the Crown. Apparently what happens is the Crown then lend them back said knives, horseshoes and nails for next year. So it's all a bit bonkers, really. But I found a link to a very historic website, so I shall
Interesting.
add that. Anyway, on to this week's fun fact.
Yes.
A man in China bought a first-class, fully refundable plane ticket, which gave him access to the airport's VIP lounge, where high-rolling travellers can dine for free.
Oh,
No
God,
cost
I can
involved
see where
there.
this is going.
Yeah. The man rescheduled his first-class ticket 300 times in 1 year to enjoy free meals.
That's
smart, isn't it?
That is so clever.
That's smarter than the fake plug socket.
Yeah, because they can't do anything about that.
Well, they did. When the airline figured out his scheme and confronted him, he cancelled the ticket and got a full refund.
So he didn't pay for his ticket and he got 300 free meals in 1 year. I
Yep.
reckon that's good food as well if it's first class VIP.
Oh, I would think so, yeah. Yes, I think it would be very good food. So,
That is genius.
It is genius, and I wonder if you can do it anymore.
Probably not. I feel like you have to give at least 24 hours notice
Of what?
of moving, rescheduling.
Possibly, yeah, but...
That is a great plan.
Yeah, he must have rescheduled it at the last minute, actually, thinking about it.
To get in, he would have had to reschedule
Yeah.
it on the day.
Who knows how that worked. But,
Crazy.
yeah. Good for
Or
him.
maybe, because you're allowed to arrive at the airport you can go to the airport. If he's not got to check in, you can just go through security.
Very possibly, yeah.
So he
Or
probably
maybe not
just
even
went
that,
the day
actually.
before.
Possibly, yeah. But 300
Just go
times, I
with
mean,
the
that's
ticket.
basically a year's worth of food he's blagged there.
That is really impressive. In 1 year as well. He must have
Yeah.
just been like, okay, I'm going to reschedule this flight for tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
And then come back.
Yeah, it must have
That's
been. Pretty much.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, just had a couple of holidays in between.
I really want to try that.
You don't live in China, though.
I don't live in China. And the food, I feel like the airports here aren't as impressive as other places. Like the one is it Singapore? That has like a fountain in the middle of, like, waterfall in the middle of the airport.
Don't know, but that sounds quite picturesque.
It's very extravagant, the one in Singapore, I believe.
The problem I've had with airports, particularly once you're past security, is either they're so rubbish, a bit like the one in Rhodes was dreadful. Mind you, there's major building works going on. Or it's so fantastic that I just have to keep Wife of Grumpy away from any of the expensive
Stuff.
looking shops.
Like the one in Geneva. Geneva Airport, need to keep her away from that.
We went through there once. I think a lot of it was closed. It was quite late at night.
There's a really lovely fish and champagne bar, which I've never treated myself to because I can't afford that, but...
Oh, I know what you mean, yes. So we ate at a restaurant at one end because the rugby was on. I remember that.
Yes, I lived in Geneva Airport for a year, basically.
What, with a meal deal first class ticket?
I'd been there so many times in 1 year. And I was there for like 8 hours once because my flight just kept getting delayed. That was fun.
That's always fun. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
You can help spread Lippy and Grumpy's view on life by leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform.
If you're not sure how to leave a review, or if you download from Spotify, there's some help at lippyandgrumpy.uk/review.
And if you would like to get in touch, email podcast@lippyandgrumpy.uk.
So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
Bye.